Let's take you back to the Kruger National Park with SABC News senior reporter Ulrich Hendricks. So Ulrich, good afternoon to you once again. I can see you are safe from the drizzles now. I was just saying that earlier on we saw, of course, Minister Vele Okamp there announcing measures as well as a plan of rebuilding the park, also announcing, very crucial to that, the Kruger Relief Fund that is created for the repairs. Talk to us about that and what is the current situation now?
Hi, thank you, Alicia. Well, it stopped drizzling, as you can see, but the lower SABC River behind me is still raging. Still a lot of water coming through. As you said, the briefing with Minister Vele Okamp, of course, announcing that, the extent of the damage that he saw this afternoon as he was touring the various areas here in the Kruger National Park is extensive, but they do not have a figure that they can add on it. But he says it's very extensive. So they're announcing that, that the Kruger Relief Fund will be established. Of course, he says all the checks and the balances will be there. So all the money will be used for what it is intended for. And it's asked the public and, of course, corporate sponsors to come aboard to basically assist in rebuilding the Kruger National Park. Of course, he also said that more than 360 staff and, of course, tourists were evacuated safely from this area. There were no deaths or injuries, in terms of workers and staff and animals. They said while they were flying over, no carcasses were spotted, so they assumed that there were no animal deaths as well. But of course, the people who've been working tirelessly for the last 7 or 8 days are the rangers. Let's speak to the head ranger, Cathy Dreyer. Cathy, tell us, it's been, I assume, a very long 8 days for you and your staff.
Yeah, it has been. I think we started on the 9th of January when we saw early warnings already that we were getting heavy rain up in the northern parts of the park. We fortunately have a disaster management committee, so we already started meeting at that stage. So it's been a massive collaborative effort. It's certainly not been one person trying to manage it all. And I think we're very lucky that in Kruger we have different sections. We have staff in all the different regions of the park. So everywhere where we've been affected by floods, there's a team of rangers, tourism, maintenance staff, and everybody's really had to pull together to deal with what was currently happening, not only in their area, but in multiple areas. So we know Kruger is 2 million hectares, and things were developing and happening in multiple areas. So it's certainly been a massive collaborative effort, a massive team effort, to be able to stay on top of things, because we have seen with this storm and this flooding, it's evolved, it's changed almost daily. So we've also had to adapt our plans. And I think if it hadn't been for the work of the team coordinating, the teams on the ground, and then everybody in the background who's also been contributing, I don't think we would have been able to stand here and say that we've safely managed to evacuate most of the guests and staff, and that we have had no serious injuries during this entire process.
Cathy, some of your staff are, especially in North, cut off. Are they okay? Do they have enough food, etc.?
So thank you so much for asking. Yes, we do have specific areas of the park, specifically in the north of the park, as you mentioned, where staff are not able to access shops or able to leave their specific areas or sections. That's mainly due to roads still being flooded or certain bridges being washed away or crossings being too dangerous for them to cross. We're checking in every single day. We have a group. Communication has been challenging. As we've seen the flooding, we have been experiencing problems with electricity, some places with water, and then communication. But we've helped where we can to be able to get the messages to people. And yes, certainly everybody is still okay and they are safe. And in the areas where we have left staff, we have left them there because it's safe for them to be there.
So talk to us about the tourists that were evacuated. What happened to them? Where are they? Are they safe? And those ones who still had, a little place to stay, etc.?
Sure. So the evacuations in the north already started on the 10th of January, and that was because we had preempted what was going to happen. So those tourists could evacuate by themselves. They were able to pack up all their belongings and move to one of the higher camps, such as Mpumalanga camp. And the same was done with staff and people in the smaller bush camps where we knew they were going to get cut off. In some places, it has been necessary to evacuate tourists. An example, people came in as day visitors at Crocodile Bridge Gate, the bridge suddenly became flooded. They were not able to go out, and we assisted people with one staying in the park overnight and then the following day being able to airlift them safely across so that they could be back with their loved ones. So where there has been risks, people have been immediately moved to camps that are safer, and where there are still people residing in camps, it's because they are safe there. There's no chance of those camps right now flooding. But again, the situation changes, and we just make sure that we keep people up to date and we communicate correctly.
So tell us about this Lower Sabi River. What is it normally like? Where is the water level? And we understand that in some areas the water is residing at some places.
Yeah, so we do see in the north of the park, we were fortunate enough to do another aerial flight today. The bigger rivers that flooded, we know about Letaba Camp that flooded and Willifants that also went above the high water bridge. Those we've seen they've drastically reduced. So those are not flooding anymore. Where we're currently standing, this is the Lower Sabi River. It's the low water bridge that gives us access between Kruger and the north of the park. So for those who are familiar with the park, it's a direct route to Chokwan and Satara. But also for us working here, it's the direct route to the Kruger Airport and to our Mission and Joint Operations Centre. Normally, it's a very beautiful single-lane bridge that's very clear, low-flowing water, but this has been like this for at least 6 or 7 days where we have not been able to access. But again, there are alternative arrangements made, specifically for those that are flying. They still are able to access the airport, and unfortunately, we still remain cut off from the north of the park where we currently are.
So, so are you optimistic that when the rain stops in a day or two, things will start moving next week or so?
Yeah, so a lot of what is currently happening in the park or the rivers and the levels of the rivers are dependent on what's happening in our catchment areas. So even though the rain might subside in Kruger and we might have blue skies, if we are still having excessive rain in our catchment areas, we are still going to be impacted. So I think for the next few days, we're going to still continue to carefully monitor the levels of the rivers. And yes, we are, of course, optimistic. We do understand that there will be substantial damage. It's very difficult at this stage to quantify that damage because, as you can see, we have to actually wait until the rivers all subside, and we have very little access to certain areas. Some areas only accessible by helicopter. So I think once everything subsides and once everything opens up, the hard work actually begins to be able to quantify the damage, to get to those areas, access those areas, and actually see what we are left with.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cathy Dreyer, of course, the head ranger here at Kruger National Park, talking to us about, the whole operation of evacuating visitors and staff, saying that there are still staff trapped in the north and they are doing everything they can, of course, to keep them fed and safe. But also saying that, the rivers and the damages being tallied and the work to rebuild will take a couple of weeks. Alicia?
All right, that's where we're going to leave it. Thank you so much for that comprehensive update from SABC News senior reporter Ulrich Hendricks. He was live to us from the Kruger National Park.